This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Hey there, hope you're well. Thanks for joining me for this chat with Ginger Wildheart from the Wildhearts. The catalyst for the conversation is the release of the new album for 2021 from the lads titled 21st Century Lovesongs. Now, in addition to gaining some insight about the album, we do a deep dive on many aspects of Ginger's career. There's some fascinating stuff if you're a fan of the man, but if you just love listening to a fella who's not just survived, but thrived in the world of hard rock, heavy metal and rock and roll, you will not get better testimony than what you're about to hear from Ginger. So here he is, Ginger Wildheart from the Wildhearts.
Andrew! Hi. Sorry, mate. The last interview just went on a bit longer than I thought.
You're a popular man, Ginger. I've got to tell you, when the opportunity came through to have a chat to you, I jumped at it. And I imagine that's the same for a lot of people, mate.
Popular enough. Any more popular, and it would be a pain in the arse. So it works.
How do you find doing this? Do you enjoy doing this sort of thing? Is it appealing?
It's what you do. It's just part of the job. I've always done it. I've always being the one that does all the interviews, and it's what's got to do it. You know, it's not something I love doing, but it's definitely not something that I dislike in any way. It's just part of the gig, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. I spoke to Jeff Walker from Carcass a few nights ago, and he, what did he say to me? I said, Jeff, I've been a massive Carcass fan for a long time. I'm 43, so of course it's my team, one of my teenage bands. But yes. I said to him, I've been looking forward to talking to you for 30 years, Jeff, and he said to me, I look forward to disappointing you then. And I've got to say, to an extent, he did a little because he just wasn't into it. I got him at the end of the phoner cycle and he just was not into it at all. But I said I understood. Like, it's no dramas. I mean, he doesn't know me from a bar of soap, of course, you know. So what I said about Jeff is also true for you too. You know that. Ever since I heard the song Christine, your song Devin. That you wrote with Devin. Yeah, and I
didn't actually write it with him. He just credited me because I was hanging out in his studio, I think. I don't know why he credited me. I think maybe he was inspired by something that I had wrote, but I never wrote a note in that song. I was in the video as well. Yeah, but he's a generous fella, that guy, to a point.
Yeah, I've spoken to him twice. So I met him back in 1999 when he still had his long hair and no receding hairline, and he was a good guy back then. And I spoke to him recently, and he was different. You know, he's more subdued these days than what he was sort of 25, 30 years ago, as you probably know. But that's generous of him. But yeah, you must have inspired it in some way, though. I mean, otherwise he wouldn't have put you on there as a songwriter.
Yeah, well, Devin works in his own mysterious ways, as we've all got little foibles. And he's one of those guys that he would literally give you the shirt off his back. So he's nice. He's a good guy. I'm glad he's still with us. I'm glad he's still making crazy, brilliant records. And long may he reign.
That's the same for you, though, too, I've got to say. I've always considered you just a bit like you got a Motorhead picture there posted behind you there. I mean, you're in the same basket as these greats as far as I'm concerned, because what you've been doing has been meaningful for so long to people like myself. I know I don't look like an outsider, but I'm a rock and metal fan. That makes us outsiders to begin with. You know what I'm saying? I still participate in society, but someone like yourself, I think, has been an icon for us for so long now. And I think that the journey that you've been on it's certainly been interesting to watch from afar. But now you're here because you've got this album, 21st Century Lovesongs. And look, I think if I could sum up how I've viewed you, and feel free to disagree at any point, of course, I've always felt like you get what made the Sex Pistols punk rock and Motorhead rock and roll. And I think this album has been crafted by someone that truly understands that. Hence, that's why it's one of your albums. Because at times it's heavy, but then there's a huge dose of melody that smacks you in the face. And it's very, very urgent as well. You haven't wasted any riffs on this one here. They're all well thought out. So after I said all that, do you agree with some of the points that I've made there? And the second part of my question would be, is this an important album for you?
Don't know about important. That'll be seen to be evident when it comes out. Who knows? As far as the Pistols and Motorhead, I mean, they were the biggest cultural shifts, apart from, when I first got into music, which was Sweet and Slade. Then there was Ramones, and then there was Pistols, then there was Motorhead, and that kind of 5 years of music, 6 years of music is still what informs me now. These bands were so different from each other, but carrying on exactly the same tradition, exactly the same spirit, that kind of pirate spirit, couldn't give a fuck spirit, which now people regard as a punk spirit, but pre-punk, it was still there. And their records have changed my life, changed my fortunes, showed me like that's the road you're going to be going down. Your friends are going to have jobs and you're going to end up trying to be Lemmy, which I'm delighted to say that people include the Wildhearts and Motorhead in the same conversation, because I do consider that we're still carrying that torch. Lemmy was my spirit animal, and now there's no Motorhead, there's no Slayer, there's no Ramones, there's no Status Quo, well, kind of no Status Quo. These are bands that were all important because of the fan base, because of the supporters. They inspired almost like community spirit of people that believe that we're all in this together. There wasn't like the Kiss thing where there was the big rock stars and the minions that buy the fridges or whatever. It was together. It was about the music. It was about the spirit, and that was what inspired me. So to be able to go on many years later and inspire that kind of attention is exactly what I hoped would happen. Never thought in a million years I would, but then I never thought in a million years we'd all still be alive at this point in time. So it's a weird one that we're still around doing this, but we definitely haven't run out of any anger. We haven't run out of steam, and we certainly haven't got. We don't want to get on stage and sit down yet.
Blame me for doing that, because look, I've had 3 listens to the album, so that's all the way through. I think it's important to do that, especially given I had a conversation coming up. But from my perspective so far, now I've only listened to it 3 times, as I say, but it's hard to go past the title track, which I think could become a signature tune for the band. But I also enjoyed the rockabilly tinged Sleep Away as well. I love the way that you guys did that. So, the point that I want to make is that none of the is there 9 songs on the album? I think I've recorded here 9, so I hope there's 9. Yeah.
There's usually 10. It's an OCD thing of mine. I like to have 10 songs on a record. 5 aside.
Well, the point is none of them sound tired or rehashed. It's a blistering album. So, you are a rock and roll original, but what keeps you producing original music that doesn't sound tired, though? That's the key point.
I'm still an angry fella with loads of things to be angry about. It's the most divisive, confused, and unconnected point in history. I think the human race is, it's going against evolution. It's going against civilization. We're doing that thing that we always do, where we compartmentalize things. So we've got things to hate and things to distrust. So all the curiosity we had as kids is just turned into suspicion now. And that's the way that we vote. It's the way we conduct ourselves socially. It's the way we look at things like and I'm just generalizing but the human race looks at things as an us and them, black and white kind of thing, which is very, very seldom the case. Things are worse because they haven't got better. We're devolving because we haven't evolved into anything remotely spiritual or humility, based. And we still have that thing where we seem to just dislike each other. We're the only species in the animal kingdom that actively just dislikes other animals because of, dislikes our own lot, to the detriment of the species. Obviously, we're weakening the species by trying to do that thing that Hitler did, where we, get rid of brown people, get rid of gay people, get rid of non-binary. There's so much confusion and negativity going around. I'm not sure how anyone can write anything but angry songs. I don't have any happy things to write about. Maybe now and again I'll write a song about my dog, and that'll be happy because she's great. But I look at the human race and the way that the world is at the moment, and I'm like, we're fucked. We're an ugly species that seems to thrive on how disgusting we are. Get the guitar out. It's tons to write. It's there's loads of gold in them there hills.
So that sounds like what's informed the lyrical content this time around.
It's the lyrical content in most of our albums and most of my music is based on how just behavioral patterns in the human race confounds me and confuses me, and it frustrates, enrages, angers me. It's often you just feel like banging your head against the wall, going, "There's no way of moving forward in this species. We've just got to accept that, a lot of people are fucked." And, that's unfortunately my outlet is to write songs. So they do tend to arrive, when I've got a country like ours, which is renowned for making mistakes, and then we go and vote these idiots in that are going to exploit us like they always do. And then you're looking at the States for a little bit of guidance, and you've got Trump. And you're like, there's no happy songs in this. There's just a bunch of pissed off riffy songs. That's all I'm getting. That's what my guitar, how my guitar digests all of this nonsense, like just big slabby riffs and then anthemic choruses. Give us something to cheer about.
Just on the United States, I was always curious as to why you guys didn't have more success over there. I know you've been a successful band, but I think you know what I'm saying. You were critically successful. But what do you think it was? There was a glass ceiling there for you guys over there.
No, it was a number of different things. We had a label over there called East West, who didn't want to put the first album out because it was too punk. And I said, but what if punk is the next big thing in America? And this label head, guy called Derek Oliver, had said, Ginger, punk will never be a big thing in America. And that was about 6 months before Maverick and Green Day and Offspring and Rancid, and punk went bigger than it did the first time round. Then we had a manager who didn't want to we had a bunch of managers want to take us over in the States, which is exactly what we need. And he had his own interests at heart. He didn't have our interests at heart. So he wanted to form a management company so he wouldn't lose any percentage. Which obviously didn't work because he was a little English manager talking to these big American managers. So like, well, why would we cut you in? We're going to be doing the work. So we couldn't get representation in the States. We couldn't get the album out in the States. And, you got no profile and you got no radio profile, then you ain't getting on any tours over there. And that was the kind of, it's, I don't want it to sound like moaning because a lot of my favorite bands were technically underachievers compared to their peers. Like I always say, Fishbone didn't get popular and Red Hot Chili Peppers did.
Awesome.
Now,
yeah.
Anyone who's heard both of those bands, who understands music, knows that Fishbone by far the superior group.
150% on that point. You're the first person I've spoken to that said that. And look, I'm a muso and I play covers and I play bass. I've played so many of Flea's songs and Chili Peppers songs. But as a young fella, I was a massive Fishbone fan. I got right into them, Give a Monkey a Brain and the albums before that. And I could never understand. Even remember 24/7 Spies, these sorts of bands. Massive fan of those bands, but it seemed like I was just myself and it never really caught on. I don't know. Look, I've spoken to Vernon Reid about this, and I think there's a racial aspect to it that the media wouldn't support black so-called rock and metal bands, and I think that's when the Chili Peppers came along. And there are these four. I know that
Well, you could say that. I mean, obviously there is a race problem in America, without a doubt. You could say there's a sexism problem, which is why a lot of female artists haven't done as well as their male counterparts. I'm a big fan of a lot of female artists, but the biggest one probably being, most important one being Maria McKee, who was in a band called Lone Justice, and she just never got the breaks. Whether it be like, little pop figures coming through. Same with a girl called Amani Coppola, who was just more talented than anything that was coming out. But again, a female and a female of color. But then again, those bands like Jason and the Scorchers, where the amount of groups that did well, I won't just name names and badmouth people, but small, tiny, insignificant bands compared to Jason and the Scorchers, who were amazing, and they just couldn't get a break. There's a lot of bands like that in the States that just didn't get that break that another band did. So you can't just use the race card. You can't just use the sex, the gender card, because there's a lot of white boys who didn't do well in the States when a bunch of inferior white boys did. So I think it's basically, if you don't play the game, if you don't toe the line, if you have any kind of integrity, then I think you find it hard to fit in this business, and they find it hard to promote you. And that's why there's tons and tons of bands that all sound the same. As soon as something kicks in, they just find a load of bands that will change their clothes and will change their sound to try and fit into some kind of like, well, maybe if we run fast enough, we'll catch that bus. It's gone. It's I think the way that the industry meddles with things as also massively to blame. Not just the public. I think the public are given a bunch of stuff to buy, a lot of stuff they don't even get to hear. Let's face it. When the Metallica Black album came out, everyone thought that was their first album. They weren't even aware there was a band called Metallica who were like rock or metal royalty at the time. So that's what the public's allowed to want.
You mentioned Maria McKee. Again, you said a few firsts on this conversation here, but I liked her back in the day too. And she was signed to Geffen though. I think, she was actually on a serious label who should have been able to push it, but it just didn't happen. But to your point, there were tons of bands like that. But there was another interesting episode of your career, which happened in 1997 when Michael Gudinski signed you for Endless Nameless and Mushroom Records.
Oh God, yeah.
Remember that?
That was not really, because that was the kind of dark ages. It was a very messy time. We were all addicted to various different things, and it was we just worked as hard against the wind as we possibly could for about almost 10 years, and then at the end we were just like, let's just get high and make noisy records, and we didn't really think or consider the industry at all. And it was at the time where Foo Fighters were kind of, I remember Monkey Wrench came out and people were going, oh, you should write music like Monkey Wrench. And I'm just like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I've got nothing to offer. Yeah. Not there's anything wrong with Foo Fighters, but we've had people saying we should sound a bit more like Andrew WK. And I'd be like, are you fucking high? What the hell's wrong with you? Yeah. You sound like we sound at the end.
I don't think people are aware of just your history and your legacy, though. So, for example, here's a big one. You effectively had the last word in Mick Ronson's incredible career. I think I'm right in saying this, but My Baby Is a Headfuck was the last time he recorded anything. So I don't think people understand that you had that reach into these people that are considered icons and legends of what we love, rock and punk and metal. But were you mates with Mick? Is that how that collaboration came about? Sorry, this will come back on. Yeah.
It wasn't the last thing that he recorded, but it was the last record he recorded that got released. He was making a record when he died with the engineer that worked on our album. When it came up to do the first album, and you remember we were an absolute unknown commodity. So there wasn't like tons and tons of producers available. So it was a bunch of people that were kind of hot at the time. And then there was Mick Ronson. And of course, being a David Bowie fan, I was like, Mick Ronson, of course, we'll have him. And then he got ill, and I think the label kind of didn't want to use him in case he was too ill to finish it off. But in the meantime, I'd already written a song called My Baby Is a Headfuck where I written a solo in there for him. And I said, well, will you come down to the studio and play this solo? Otherwise, we're not going to bother recording it. And he was so gracious. He accepted, and we had him in the studio. We had Stevie Lang, who's got one of the most amazing voices in the world, and she'd never met Mick Ronson. So there was this lovely kind of loved up, because everyone that met Mick Ronson loved him. And it was such a good thing for us to do, to be working with real legends who really are amazing. We met a lot of people who consider themselves to be legends who aren't very good, but we started off with some of the best people we've ever worked with. And it was all testament to the fact that, Mick Ronson was such a humble fella. He was like, yeah, I'll come down and play the guitar. Don't want paying, don't want anything. Put the kettle on, make me a cup of tea. And it was that, it was that being brought up around bands like punk bands and Motorhead, and having that kind of that rock star ego thing battered down from the start. We're all in this together. And then working with humble people who were influential heroes of mine. It was a great start for a band like us, because we realized that this is the way you do it. You stay humble, you stay thankful, and always be grateful for what you've got. And if you do make fans, if you're lucky enough to get some supporters, treat them well. Those people are gold. I know, we had that enforced. We didn't pick it up. We had that enforced by people like Mick Ronson.
Yeah, you got the right start. But look, somebody else that you worked with, and I tried to find something on it, but I didn't really come across anything. But I know you did some work with Nikki Sixx.
Nikki Sixx. I've never worked with Nikki Sixx. I joined Brides of Destruction when Scott Sorry took over from Nikki.
Oh, right. Okay. Yep.
I'm obviously aware of who he is, and he's aware of who I am. I mean, I still think that first Motley Crue album is great, because it's so. I like the first the Leather Records one. That just sounds like it's just a punk album. It's got its own unique sound, but it's not. It doesn't sound like anyone. I loved that record, and then the second album came out, and I'm like, I don't like this. And then they kind of, went down that kind of more traditional, generic heavy metal route. And I'm like, well, that's not really for me. But I liked the first one because it reminded me of punk bands, but also had bits of sweet in there. And, it was like the first Ramones album, actually. It was a lot like that, in as much as like, whoa, what is this? And, so, yeah, me and Nikki kind of were pen pals. Kind of round about the time where the internet first started kicking in. So, we were able to keep in contact via email and stuff. But apart from a Japanese tour that we did, where we got to see each other for, quite a lot, and I got to get on stage with him and stuff, we haven't had a lot of contact. So, I think we're fond of each other, but we don't know each other that well.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. It was interesting. Well, did you find, was it enjoyable, I should say, in 2009 when you did the Camp Freddy thing?
It was interesting because it was all first class. It was all private planes and massive hotels and, hanging out backstage with famous people. It was a great experiment, but I couldn't say it was something that I thought, this is me. I've arrived now. This changes everything. I've never minded not traveling first class. I've never minded not hanging out with famous people. So it's fun. It's fun to do, but as a little treat. It's not me.
Yeah. How did you get involved in that? Was it an invitation that was extended to you by the organisers, or did someone like Corey Taylor from Slipknot say, "Hey, Ginger's got to be a part of this"?
I don't know. With things with the Wildhearts, we have supporters in every walk of life, whether it's people in bands, people behind the scenes. And Camp Freddy, the manager, was aware who I was, and Billy Morrison, who put the thing together. With Dave Navarro, he was aware of he liked my band and stuff. But we're the sort of group that we have people. I once put it on Twitter: who's got the most interesting job? And it turned out there was two brain surgeons, which I thought was fantastic. Two brain surgeons, and there was one guy who remote control steers the ship, that the thing that walks around the moon, that drives around the moon.
Shit. Yeah, wow.
So I'm like, well, you could land anywhere and find a Wildhearts fan somewhere. And the joke is, the theory goes, if you are in a strange town and you walk into a bar with a Wildhearts t-shirt on, someone's going to come up and talk to you. And so far so good. It seems to be, everyone says, I'm going to Japan, what should I do? So just wear a Wildhearts t-shirt in a bar and you'll make friends. And it absolutely 100% true. Even works in the States, where we're not really that well known, but we're known because the people that like us are rabid fans. And I get that, because I'm a mad fan of stuff that I like. I'm not just like I don't go warm on things. I'm either insanely addicted or passionate, or it's just not my, I don't have an opinion. I think our people are a bit like me, which is nice to know. They're going to stay with us. We've got a career for life.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Supporters who will be there through thick and thin for you. And look, Steve, I've always felt like Steve Jones and yourself should have done something together. So do you know Steve, and have you even thought about trying to collaborate in some way?
Yeah, Steve, I know Steve in as much as when I go to Los Angeles, we go hiking.
Wow, okay.
Jimmy Ashurst takes me hiking with him, and he talks to me like he knows who I am and knows what I do and has heard the music. But as far as collaborating with people, I don't think no one really wants to do that. I used to be curious. There used to be a lot of people I just admired so much. I wanted to work with, like Steve Earle or Maria McKay or Cheap Trick or whatever. Now that I get a bit older and I've kind of carved out my own kind of thing, I'm not interested in working with anyone else. No reason, no disrespect or anything. Because I'm just not really interested in the whole process involving someone else. I guess it's just convenient. I write songs, and if they're heavy and pissed off, they're Wildhearts in the Wildhearts box, and if they're kind of well constructed, almost classic, they go in this Ginger and the Sinners box, and then if they're just weird, they go in the solo box to use later. That seems to work for me. The idea of getting together with someone and saying, okay, then what we're going to write about? Well, what do you like? Well, I don't know. What do you like? It just seems like 10 times the effort for half the satisfaction.
Yeah, I get that. It's great.
It would be just a process of compromise writing with someone else.
It's great that you're mates with him, though, because you seem like kindred souls.
Well, Steve Jones.
Yeah.
Well, we've both, been.
Yeah, you're originals. You're originals. There's nobody like you two.
Thank you very much. That's very, very nice to hear. I'm a huge Steve Jones fan. I mean, that was almost my gateway drug, was that album. Basically a lot of what we do. He's from that age where people had styles. They weren't all trying to be punk. They had their own styles, and it was you've got therefore the Johnny Ramone sound, which is different than the Steve Jones sound, which is different than the Brian James sound. And it was at that time where people carved out their own identity, and it still kind of exists. So if anyone's saying that I've done a similar thing, then great. I don't know many people that sound like me, which is nice, I think.
I think I've got 3 minutes left. Is that right? Before you got to go to the next one? Or?
I've asked him if he'll extend. Yes, it's been moved to 12, so we're good.
Okay, sweet. You've been with CJ, the band's longtime guitarist now. I know you've had some breaks there, but by and large, you've been together for 35 years, is it? Thereabouts. And then you're practically brothers at this point from the perspective that you've been in tour vans and buses and planes and you know each other's secrets and all the rest of it. So what is it that's kept you guys in forces throughout the band's rich history, do you think?
It is weird, isn't it? We've known each other for longer than we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
That's weird, isn't it? That is so weird. I've never even thought about that. I've known him for longer than I hadn't known him. It's mad. I think what keeps us both going is that we're very open and honest about the music that we like. And we got a very similar style because I have played with a lot of different people. I realized as soon as me and CG get together how easy it is. It's almost like it just fits. And the vocal thing's weird because we just, over the years, our voices have changed slightly as they do, but they still sound great together. It's that thing that, again, like Status Quo that I grew up with. It was almost like it was a familiar thing, not just a sound. It was like the smell of grass or the feel of fur, I mean, on a live animal, not on a bloody coat or anything, but just one of those comfort things where we do our thing and it works. And also because he's not lazy. I think if he was lazy, we wouldn't still egg each other on. But as we are advancing in our years, we're still staying fit. We're still staying healthy. We're still pushing the other one on stage. We're still, we're not getting old. We're not calming down, and we're certainly not getting slower or lazy. And I think if one of us did just give up and just put loads of weight on, the other one probably would as well, and that would kind of be it. But I think we keep each other trim. So I think it's the same for.
I think it's almost the same for your drummer too, Rich, isn't it? I mean, I know he's been out of the band longer, but he's certainly been there for the same length of time in terms of tenure.
Yeah. Well, Rich, we've had a few drummers in the band, but Rich, I've always maintained, is our drummer. He's the sound of the group. When I write songs, I hear him playing drums. And we work so well together, in as much as even if I'm writing a song, I'm showing him a song and it's got tons of bits, he naturally gravitates to how to play the bits. And even songs that are deceptively awkward to play, like, for example, when we played Bloodstock, I was saying that we had a stand-in drummer. And a lot of the tempo changes in the songs, he struggled with. And it made me realize how easy it is to work with Rich, who kind of understands what I'm doing, what I'm going for.
Yeah.
So it's effortless with Rich. It really is. And he's still into it. And if he wasn't into it, if he was just like, "Oh, guys, I'm done now. I think I'm just going to retire and get old," then that would be the band over. He's the heart of the group. He's the passion of the group. If he wasn't doing it, I don't think we'd have a group. And then there's Danny.
Cool. Yeah.
Danny's a fucking a mystery. He's always been an enigma, that fella. It doesn't make sense on any level, but it doesn't make sense. He's still alive. Lost half of his legs, most of his teeth, and he's still here.
Well, that's a good point. I don't use this word loosely and take what I say when I say this at face value. But you guys are a band of survivors in many respects. So do you think fate has played a big part in your role, or do you think it's just been luck?
I don't know how to really believe in fate. It's one of those convenient things, isn't it, that people kind of shoehorn into the plans. It's luck and constitution and genetics and stubbornness. It's a lot of things. The Wildhearts are still here, not because we're riding a wave from some years ago or getting by on the royalties for the big hit song that we had. We're here because we refuse to fuck off. And I think it's, after a while, people just get, worn down by it and go, "Okay, then, let me listen to your band." And then listen to us and go, "Oh, I actually quite like this." So I think it's in the case of a lot of bands as well, because I remember when Motorhead, when their fortunes were down in the 90s, I remember Motorhead playing tiny little places. I remember them playing small places, co-headlining was Saxon, and the small places not being sold out, and it just being a case of but they're still going to be here. They're not going to go away. They're not going to be shut down because the audience has dropped a little bit. That's not what Motorhead do. They're pirates. They get on that ship and they go and loot and pillage, and that's kind of the way we've always thought about things. Giving up and going away has never really been an option. For periods where we haven't released records, but we still played live. We still like making the racket. So I don't know what it is that's kept us going, but it's it looks like we can't be killed now. I mean, Christ Almighty, now it is just like we get backstage and it is like a bunch of pirates. That guy's got a bloody false leg. That guy's got some other contraption. That guy's got mental health issues. That guy, it is like a bunch of modern day fucking pirates. That really, we do find humor in our band as well. The fact that it's so ridiculous that we're still here. And one of my favorite pictures is a picture of me I got a virus, not the COVID thing, but a virus a few years ago. And there's a picture of me on stage being sick into a bin while Danny's sitting on a chair with one leg looking all concerned. And I'm like, that could only be the Wildhearts. The singer's being sick in a bin while the one-legged bass player looks on in concern. You're not going to get that with a lot of bands, thank God. But the Wildhearts has always been, it's honest and it's real. It's ugly and it's honest and it's real.
What were the lessons you learnt then in the Choir Boys that you carried with you all the way through your career?
Don't play in the Choir Boys. That was the main one. The Choir Boys always wanted me to change my sound. I always wanted to have a more of a raging guitar sound, and they wanted me to have a Faces sound. And I couldn't understand why they wanted to sound, like punk never happened, or like, Motorhead never happened. And so the one thing I learned is don't change your sound. Don't change what you do for someone else. If someone else doesn't like it, that's, just agree to go your separate ways. But you don't do anything wrong just because it doesn't fit into certain circumstances. I think that's about all I learned. Don't play rhythm guitar in someone else's band. See, that was always my dream gig, was play rhythm guitar in a band. And I did it a few times. I did it with Michael Monroe. I did it with Courtney. And it was unfulfilling. Well, obviously, not surprisingly, because I've got a much bigger, more involving job with the Wildhearts. And I got used to doing a lot of stuff. So having an easy gig has never really been for me. I think that's one of the things that I should have learned. But yeah, the main thing I learned from the Choir Boys is don't change your style for anyone.
When you say Courtney, is that Courtney Love?
Yeah.
When was that?
A few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Was this when she was trying to get a solo career back up off the ground again in the Courtney Love band or in whole? No,
in the Courtney Love band. She toured Australia. We did a nice big tour of Australia. That was amazing. And it was just I played with her everywhere. It was great. But again, it was like easy. And sometimes you're on stage just going like, I shouldn't be getting paid for this, or I should be getting paid double for singing and bloody playing guitar and writing the songs, triple. But yeah, it was an easy gig that would have been really, perfect for someone else, but it was just too easy for me. I had nothing to do for the most of the day.
Is she misunderstood, do you think?
Yeah, she is. And that's just the way people are. People will think the worst of people because it makes better copy. She's very, very generous. She's we had a really nice, especially live, we had a really nice bond. We had a really nice chemistry. She's one of the artists I say that it was one of those gigs where it wasn't really my gig because it was so easy. But if she did get in touch tomorrow and ask me to go on tour with her, I definitely would. and she does everything in style. She's one of these people where she smells expensive, she drinks like the best tequila backstage, or she did when she was drinking, and you stay in great hotels, and this experience, much like the Camp Freddy thing, where it's not my world, so I find it fascinating. It's like, whoa, this is where famous rich people stay. Wow. And it's nice. It's nice to eat well and travel well and stuff. It's the sort of thing that you wouldn't mind doing again, but it's not something that I hanker for or crave in any way.
Did you have many of those 2 a.m. conversations and philosophize about life with her? Because I imagine she'd be a fascinating person in that respect.
No, I don't think she was really all that happy when we were going. She was going through her own set of demons, as was I. And now when I see her online and she's talking about, she's really happy and she's really got herself together. She's fulfilled as a person. I think it would be a different thing if I could tour with her now. I think we're both very, very much different people than we were back then. It was a strange time. It was an odd time. I didn't really have anything like a solo career, and the Wildhearts weren't really a concern anymore. So it was one of those things where it filled a gap nicely.
How did the connection come about with her? Was it through management or something else?
No, it was through her drummer, Scott Lips, who has a huge model agency in America. And I met Scott Lips in the Barbados store in New York, which is on the grounds of the old CBGBs. And I was in the Barbados store, and I knew one of the guys from the store, and he said, "Do you like Cheap Trick?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "Do you want to play bass for Cheap Trick in about 10 minutes?" And I'm like, "You are?" And he said, yeah, Robin Zander and Rick Nielsen's coming down to the store. We need someone to play bass. I'm like, yeah. Not only that, I know all the songs, so it should be all. And it was obviously, I did an okay job, because Scott Lips came up to me afterwards and he said, "Hey, my name's Scott. Here's my card." I just figured it's some seemed like a nice guy. Looked him up when I got back home, and he had every single famous model in the world was on this guy's roster. So he's a big player in a world that I'm not even aware of. And so when Courtney he was playing drums with Courtney, and when Courtney needed a second guitar player, he said, "Well, before we hold auditions, can we get Ginger over?" And she was like, "Yeah, okay." And thankfully, they never did audition anyone else, because I got the job straight away. It was one of those things where, again, we got fans or we got supporters all over the world. There's just not billions of them, but they're in all sorts of walks of life. And it can be, someone who's involved in immigration just helps you get your papers because they're a supporter of the group, or someone who designs trousers in Japan. Whatever it is, it's they're an interesting bunch, and they spread out all over the place. And they even play drums in Courtney Love's band.
There you go. Yeah. Well, there's another, I guess you have to call her a mogul at this point, but you certainly had some interactions with Sharon Osbourne back in the day, didn't you?
Yeah, well, she was managing the Choir Boys. Yeah. It was her office I was called into. We went to Los Angeles for the first time, and I was a young boy in Los Angeles. What you going to do? You know what I mean? I was like, yep, I'm here to have a good time. And I probably had too much of a good time, because I was taken to her offices in London when we got back home and fired. And she was kind of instrumental in getting me to the office, but I don't think she knew that I was going to be fired outright. I think the band just didn't want me in, with good reason. I wouldn't have wanted me in. But I think she dealt with much worse than me. I think she was surprised when they just went, "Well, there's other ways we can do this." And I think maybe she saw my worth more than the band did. And so she kept in touch. And when I did the Camp Freddy thing, she was there, obviously, because Ozzy was on the bill. And she's dead nice. She comes straight over, showing me pictures of Kelly tap dancing with your little little, just a little at the time. And it's just a genuine person who isn't affected by anyone's fame or probably lack of fame. She probably just sees what she sees in them, and it's not affected by what other people are thinking. And I've always found her really, really honest, really genuine, and she remembers who I am. She doesn't need to. So she's a good egg, Sharon. She's a good egg.
That might be, in 600 interviews, the most positive Sharon Osbourne story I've ever heard. I've got to be honest with you. I've heard some doozies that I haven't even been able to put to air. What it seems to me like, if she takes a shine to you, you're good and you're pretty much good for your life. But if something happens in the first interaction with you, with her and whoever it might be, if you get off on the wrong foot, you can never get back on the right foot again. That's just my perception.
I definitely wouldn't want to fall out with Sharon Osbourne. But you'd have to be a fool to fall out with someone like that anyway. Why would you want to fall out with someone you know is a badass and will fight like a lioness? Fall out with someone.
Titan of the industry. Yeah, I mean, Ozzy owes her his life.
Absolutely, a few times over as well. And it's that honesty that she has, pathological honesty that I've always liked, when my ex-missus, who's now my business partner, and she runs Round Records with me, and I used to just describe Sharon Osbourne and just say, look, this is going to work because we're a family, because you're not going to rip me off, because you need the money to feed our child. So it's an ideal kind of scenario. So chances are I wouldn't even have my label if it wasn't for Sharon and the Osbournes, not the show, but the family. Yep. And that her reason for doing this was a very, very primal, very, it was a dominant woman protecting her family, and that's how my thing worked out. God bless her for that. And also, the first time I ever met Ozzy was I was with the choir boys in LA, and he came up and he was saying, "What are you drinking?" I was saying, "Vodka and orange." He was like, "That stuff will kill you." And I had no concept of sobriety at the time, and I'd be like, Ozzy Osbourne is telling me that alcohol's going to kill me. I'm like, Ozzy, I'm lucky there's some alcohol left after you fucking went for it. It's but then again, that's the thing in LA. You get a lot of people, I won't name names, obviously Ozzy aside.
Yeah.
What's going on
in the US? There we go. Yeah.
A lot of people have told me, oh, that's not how you do it. You should do it like this and you should do it like that. And that's the dark side. For me, that's the dark side of rock and roll. Not alcohol and drugs. That's not the dark side. The dark side is when people get sober and try and palm it off on you. That's where it gets
totally agree with that one there. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But you look, I mentioned, I sort of went there earlier and I talked about you guys being, well, you specifically, let's talk about you here, being a survivor in that respect. But you did go through hell and you've come out the other side of it. And was there a strategy that you put in place, or was it just as simple as you woke up one day and just said, I'm not doing this anymore?
No, well, I'm still doing it. I didn't get sober or anything. I have been through a lot of testing times. I think a lot of people have to go through testing times. And I like to say, the safest place for a boat is tied up on the shore, tied up on the jetty. But that's not what boats are made for. Boats are made to get out there and get on them choppy waters and be bashed around a bit. And I think people are the same. Again, as a writer, it served me really well because adversity's got loads of songs in it, whereas, happiness is its own reward, and you don't tend to want to go and sit down and pour your feelings out over a guitar when the sun's out and you're having a great time. So it's sitting in the house under a black cloud because things have been tough is where a lot of the great songs, definitely my favourite songs, have come from. I have my old friend, the blues, tattooed. Steve Earle.
Nice.
And I mean, that song didn't come from a happy place. That was a guy who knows, who understands being down, being in the dark side of life. and he wrote about it. Instead of moaning about it, he wrote a song about it. So I think, yeah, the adversity's always been there with me, but then I've got over 500 songs, so I can't really complain. I'm still here, white-knuckling my way through every day just to get to bedtime. And that's all my advice that I ever give anyone who's suffering from anything, mental health problems or just personal traumas. Just make it to bedtime. Whatever time bedtime falls on, even if it's 3 PM, just get to bedtime, and then you've cracked it. You've succeeded again.
Yeah.
So being a songwriter is, especially with the experiences in mental health problems, I've found a great way of dealing with things. And it's not even like it just helps me. Some of the songs go out and someone else tells me that it helped them. At which point it's bigger than music. It's almost being of service. And there's nothing more important than that. I think if it was just about making money and being famous, my ego would be telling me like, oh, you're getting old, you need a facelift or something like that. But my thing is purely musical, and I'm so, so very thankful of that.
Have you got any regrets?
Not really. There's stupid things that I've said and done that that's just the price of an education, but not regrets, because I'm talking to you, it's, doing a load of promo for a new album that everyone's saying they like. Going on tour in 2 days' time, at a time where no one's going on tour. I'm 56, I'm fit as fuck. I've got a lovely dog, and I get to do this for a living. I get to make music, write songs, create things, make art for a living. Whereas a lot of my friends, even the ones with good jobs, are finding it hard to make ends meet now. And music's always been like that for me. It's always helped me mentally. It's always been a great support emotionally. It's always paid the bills. I don't know why. I don't know how. I'm a lucky motherfucker. But amazing. It's amazing. All my fucking things just about to go off here. I've got a computer that doesn't work, but it doesn't tell me it's not going to work until it's just about to go off. Oh, there we are.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I'm a really lucky person that it keeps on being very evident how lucky I am. And I'm just a grateful motherfucker.
You don't look a day over, I reckon, 46, 47. So you look 10 years younger than what you are.
Yeah, which is easy to do when you look as bad as I did when I was young. I was always a bloated drunk. So I get to sign old pictures of myself and go like, fucking hell, I definitely look better now than I did then. But that wasn't hard because I looked terrible then. Again, good genes and having a good, healthy competitive setup with another guitar player who's skinny and keeps himself in shape. So you've got to work hard. I don't want to be the lazy guy next to him. So it's and I've got 3 kids, so they're that's a run around for you. Man, I'm still fit as fuck, so I can still exercise. I can still get out there and walk for 3 hours with the dog, and which is exactly what I'm going to do when I finish all of these. And it's great. It's great. I'm very, very lucky. Still got all my bits and they all still work.
You don't seem burdened by the world. You strike me as a bit of a, I wouldn't say free spirit. I think it's too cliched to say that, but you just don't seem like as though you're burdened by life. And I think that's the biggest issue when you meet people, is that they just seem, no matter how much you remind them they've got a roof over their head, clean water coming out of the tap, food that they can pretty much access at any time of the day. Depends on the varying quality of it, of course. But if someone was to ask you what the secret to your life has been, do you think you'd have an answer?
No, not at all. Not at all. Some days are better than others. Sometimes you want to kill someone, and sometimes you want to tell them all that, the human race is not that bad. It's a contradictory experience, the human experience. And I do consider myself just a reporter on the human condition purely from my own, personal perspective. But when you write stuff that like I say, it speaks to someone else, or someone else picks up on a similar thing that they're going through as well. That's when you realize that this music, I might have problems with society and civilization as a whole, but music, I still think of as a romantic, medicinal, spiritual thing. I'm not just making it, but listening to it. I'm a huge music fanatic. Definitely would not be here without it. And there's still plenty of us around. So it looks like I'm going to be okay for a job for a little while longer.
Do you think you've got it? If you were asked to name a career highlight, do you think you'd have an answer for that question?
No. Yeah, no. You're still getting to do it. Still getting to make records that take people by surprise. That's, having an imagination after this, not at this age, but after doing this many records, and I've got like 500 plus songs available that commercially, and still getting to be inspired and excited by some new songs and a new album and a new tour and stuff like that. That's the career highlight. There's been a lot of career lowlights that I don't like to really, concentrate on at all. But still being inspired and seeing a lot of people that I respect, like songwriters, kind of running out of material and still getting, still having no shortage of new ideas. That's always a highlight. Every new album that I write is a highlight because it's still going. His dream's still alive. And it's, poverty hasn't killed me, hasn't dampened my spirits. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, emotional upsets and upheavals and stuff. None of them have dampened my spirits. So, it's obviously it's a good thing that I'm still excited. I've got a lot of friends who are just cynical through and through because the world's thrown around a bit. I'm that boat who likes being out on the choppy waters. It makes good for good sailors. Ship water, and I like to think that I'm still, navigating myself through the choppy waters of adversity and fucking sniffing the shits other people are scared to sniff. I don't know. I just it's not even like I'm a happy spirit all the time. I'm very resilient. I won't go down. I won't go down.
Do you believe in past lives and reincarnation?
I don't know. No, in theory, no, because I think we're energy, and I don't think it works like our life and our case and this whatever this is that important. But I think our energy and our essence is really important. So I do believe that we don't die. We don't end. Energy doesn't end, does it? It goes and does something else. No, and I do believe that there is a much bigger thing. It's just not people walking around on clouds and tunnels where you meet your family, when you die. I don't believe any of that shit.
No, yeah.
But I do believe that there is something like a design, and it's more to do with, aliens and UFOs and all that sort of stuff, and different dimensions. And the fact that there's some things that have been going for so very, very long, we can't even grasp the concept. We haven't even been here 1 million years, and there was 250 million years of dinosaurs, and God knows what before that. So all of these Darwin theories that we kind of just shoehorn in for convenience that just don't fit and don't work on any level. There's something else akin to a design. Ergo, they would appear to be a designer. So it makes sense to me that whatever this is, whatever this concept, this whole UFO thing is, they've been here forever, and that's the story. In which case, there are a lot more things about this than we know or understand or can understand. It's probably even we're just a 3-dimensional species. They're probably 4 or 5 fifth dimensional, and we can't even see it.
Yeah.
So I think it's
totally.
a big thing. But as far as reincarnation, I'm not so sure that it's even important that we're reincarnated. I don't think human beings are that important, to be honest.
No, I'm with you on that. Yeah, no, I think we overestimate our place in the universe. We overstate it. Sorry, is a better way to describe it.
Yeah, and if we are going to come back, I hope I come back as a dog.
Yeah, in a nice household, like your household, though. I'd come back as a dog in your household, though. There you go. You know,
I'd definitely come back as my dog. She's very happy.
Hey, look, I'll make this my final question for you, but it's a big one. Okay. Zealot in Wonderland by Gary Davidson. I haven't read it yet. I didn't even know it was out there until yesterday, actually, when I was doing some research for our conversation. But I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's a snapshot into the life of the band with the focus on yourself. But I'm curious. I mean, God, you've lived it all. You're still going. You've got all of this energy. So, mate, when's the autobiography coming out?
I've tried to write autobiographies 3 times now, and every time something ridiculous has gone wrong. Like the computer's lost the files and they can't be retrieved, or the hard drive's gone down, can't be fixed. I think it's telling me that my autobiography should be written at the end rather than halfway through, because I'm far from the end. And I don't show any signs of slowing down. I think I need to get a few more stories in there before I write it. And
get a ghostwriter. Yeah, get a ghostwriter. So all you're doing is just talking to somebody, and they're doing it all for you, because it's still your words, Ben. They just piece it together for you.
Yeah, but there's also a lot to be said, right? When you see someone, I read. I'm a crazy reader, and I especially read autobiographies, and ones with ghostwriters are very different. Even the Lemmy one is very different than someone writing it down, and you can read their personality in the words. So I think if I was going to do an autobiography, I'd want to write it, just to paint with the words, to paint with the language, because it would be a form of art. I wouldn't want to do it as just a report or an interview. I'd want to do it as the only autobiography you're ever going to write. So I think part of it would be that I want to go away somewhere to a kibbutz for 2 years and write it myself. That would be the draw, I think, when eventually it happens.
I can't wait to read it, and I sincerely hope you get that book done. I mean, the lessons that you'd have in there, not because you're preaching, just your life story and the negotiating, the various obstacles that you've overcome, and just fucking playing killer rock and roll like you've done too. Because most people dream, as you know, but you've actually done it, and people love reading that.
Me too. I love reading that, and I really do love reading a great, rip snorting, spitting sawdust tale of adversity, and traversing the ups and downs, and at the end it's a happy ending because the guy's still alive. So I'm a big fan of books like that, there's too many books. There's certainly too many bloody rock and roll books where it ends up the last chapter's about rehab and AA, and I mean that's to me that's not a story. It's there's not going to be that embarrassing thing about and then I found God. And then,
guys in corn.
I know. When it eventually happens, they're all like that. I've read so many even Steve Jones's biographies like that. It's amazing. It's like this pirate story, and then this fucking shit final chapter about finding the program. And I'm sure that's really important to you, but as a spectator sport, it's a bit like a chapter on wanking. You know what I mean? It's like everyone wants to know about the sexual conquest, but not about your own personal relationship with your todger. And I find that's what sobriety is. It's their own personal relationship with their demons. I mean, there's nothing really entertaining in that.
Yeah. I got to say, I've been let down too many times. I've read just about every musician's autobiography, whether they've written it themselves or they've got a ghostwriter in. I've read just about everyone out there. And there's only, in terms of rock and metal, there's only about 30 or 40 out there. But yeah, I've been disappointed too many times to count from the perspective that I want to know the stories. Just give it to us real, like the success, the failure. Just tell us what the hell happened. And I think that the Pantera guys went a bit too close to the edge. Rex Brown's book was a bit too sort of out there. Not that it wasn't an entertaining read, and I didn't enjoy it, but he's since backtracked and started trying to throw poor old Mark Eglinton under the bus, who was his ghostwriter, trying to imply that Mark or the management company or whatever else had been overly officious in trying to get him to share some of these stories about Vinnie Paul and this stuff. But I just think, mate, if you said it's out there, just stand behind it. It is what it is. Nobody's judging you, really.
Yeah, own it. It's a good story. People aren't really thinking about you, but if you give them a good story to read, then that's good enough. And the rest of it, just accept it, own it. It happened to you. Big deal. More honest books. Okay, before you go, give me your an autobiography that springs to mind that I should read.
Stephen Pearcy from Rat.
Yeah, I read that one. That was another one where he ends up in the bloody program at the end.
I know. I was going to give you a caveat there that it does. In terms of I'm tempted to say Keith Richards's, but I didn't like it because they had way too much of his childhood in there, and who cares? It was like reading a teeth brushing session or something. It was ridiculous, the first third of that book. To be honest, mate, there isn't one. I didn't like David Vincent from Morbid Angel's book either because it was all about him being a bit of a hero. Mate, it's tough because there just hasn't been one. I think I don't even like Australian rules football. I'm a rugby union and rugby league fan, and there's a guy called. Okay, here's one for you. It's not a music one, but it's a good story about a bloke who you talk about confronting demons. Ben Cousins.
Writing this down.
Yeah,
Ben
Cousins. I'll just make sure I get the spelling of it for you right. Cous. Yeah, Cousins is in You're My Cousin. Cousins.
And he is a what?
He's an Australian rules footballer. Yep, but he's had a horrendous ice addiction, which is do you call it ice in the UK or do you call it methamphetamine?
Well, we don't get it in the UK. I know they call it ice and shard over there. They call it ice in the States. I've been addicted to it as well, but in the States and in Philippines.
Yes, Shabu. My wife's half Filipino, so Shabu, yeah. But that book there, he's an elite athlete, one of the most gifted athletes that this country's ever produced, yet he's had this horrendous addiction that he still hasn't overcome to this day, I think. I'm right in saying that. But he doesn't, it's not a sad story either. He just tells you what goes on. He doesn't apologize for any of it. He just says, this is what I did. The thing about him, mate, is that he's only doing it to himself. He hasn't raped anybody. He hasn't been a fuckwit to anybody. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like from all reports, he's a pretty decent fella. But he's got this thing going on. And the book, honestly, as I say, I don't even like the sport that much, but I read it and I was like, I think I read it in like 2 days or something like that. And I hope that if, I think Kindle Unlimited or whatever should have it. But that's highly, highly recommended, that one.
Oh no, I'm getting that today. Okay, I'll raise you that and offer you Al Jurgensen.
Oh, I did read that one. Yeah, that's tremendous. I love Al. I've spoken to him a couple of times, and he's just a lovely fella. I think Al, misunderstood. I have. Yeah. Have you got? What's your second one?
Okay, the second one then. Tez Roberts from Discharge. And After the Gig, it's called.
Okay, I haven't read that one. I'm going to download that tonight. There you go.
Yeah, that's a great one. And he played with Ministry, and he was with Al when he set the bus on fire. So
holy shit,
it's intertwined, but that's a great book. That's another really good page turner.
I can't wait. I'm going to read that one tonight because I've been struggling with books. I love horror. I've been reading a lot of Ramsey Campbell stuff again, just books I've already read again. Clive Barker and stuff. But I love all that stuff too. So
brilliant, really good.
But
mate, thank you very much. This has been a great one. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Likewise, mate. I'm so thrilled that I get these opportunities to have these chats, and mate, you've definitely been an absolute highlight and a gentleman, and I thank you so much for humouring me in my questions and going there, and just thank you for being you, mate. And my final point will be is, guess what, Ginger? You will make my book because I write books on my podcast series too. So you're going to be in it.
As long as I'm there, I don't mind if it's good or bad. As long as I'm in.
No, you'll be under the good entries. Don't worry. Very rare are the bad entries, but no, mate, you're going to be under a very good one. Don't worry about that. I'll send it to you. I'll hit Chris up and I'll send it to you once it's out there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. All right. All the best with everything. Thanks so much again.
See ya.
Cheers.
Well, there you have it, my conversation with the one and only Ginger Wildheart. If you like what you just heard, go across to scarsandguitars.com where there are many more conversations posted just like that one from the world of, well, the leading lights from the world of hard rock, heavy metal, punk rock, alternative rock, whatever, and beyond. You'll also see some reviews, some blog entries. I've got a fairly long piece about Metallica you might like to read about their era from 1995 to 2003. Plenty of other odds and sods and goodies if you're a fan of the music I've already mentioned. So my name's Andrew Mackay-Smith and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. It's goodbye for now.